it's Ben from Research Lab, here to do a review of the Corridor Craw. This is an extremely fun board to ride. It generates so much speed. It's one of the fastest boards in my quiver, and it's only 4.6. So not only is it fast, but it's so small it can spin and snap turns well too. This board is definitely one of my favorite when it comes to riding shortboard waves. So waves where you either acid drop on or you step on or skate on. Anything where you're not required to paddle to catch or pop up. This board's a little bit small for me for those types of waves. But shortboard waves like you find at Riverrun Park, down in Pueblo, the new Spillway wave, Salida Scout Wave of course, or waves that you find in Boise, Bend, the City Wave up in Washington. All of those waves are great for this board. This board is about 18 3/4 wide, and the tail, you can see it's got a huge wide tail, and there's very little tail rocker, probably about ½ inch or something. And I think that's what generates most of the speed on this board. But when the waves are really big, all this speed in this board is a little bit hard to control. A lot of times on a big wave, I can stand heavy on my back foot, point the nose upstream, and I can get the board to kind of slow down and control. This board, Scout Wave at high water this year, I could not do that. I would be standing at the top of the wave. I had the option between going straight down the wave and trying to slow it down or turning and going towards the other shoulder. And I knew I couldn't slow it down, so I'd be forced to turn towards the other shoulder. I'd get over there and I'd be standing at the top of the other shoulder having to do it again. And I just kept zipping back and forth until I eventually fell or did a spin and fell or kicked off. It's not something that's bad about the board, it's just something that's interesting. If you're not comfortable with surfing really hard nonstop on a big river wave, this board might not be for you. One of the cool little details that Victor put into this board was he added extra fin plugs behind the normal FCS ones. So you can choose to put your fins either in the back tube or in the front tube if you're using FCS1. And the idea there is if you're maybe surfing a slower wave or you're having to surf further forward, you might want to shift all your fins into the front tube position so it's easier to turn. I think personally on this board, it's so small as it is, there's not a lot of room to shift anyways. The fin shifting isn't going to make a big difference, but I have enjoyed playing with asymmetrical fin setups, both asymmetrical fins as well as where I place them on this board with all this adjustability. I think it's kind of cool to see some of this evolution. I'd love to see more of this in more boards in the future. As far as skill levels I'd recommend for this board, I would say probably anyone kind of intermediate level or better would have a great time on this board, with the exception of some of the really big, fast and steep waves. So, City Wave, Scout at high water, maybe Phase 2 in Boise. Surfing on those waves with this board is probably best suited for someone more advanced or an expert level, just because, like I said, it's hard to control the speed with this wide tail. You really just have to keep surfing it hard. All other waves though, I feel like this board, anyone intermediate or better, someone who's has decent control, isn't losing their board into the rocks a lot, they would have a ton of fun on this board. As far as sizing this board goes, I actually have two versions of this board. The board I've been surfing this year is mostly the 4.6 length, and last year I had picked up a 4.4 just off the rack, and I surfed it all last year. And I always felt like the 4.4 felt just a little bit small for me. I felt that when I pumped it really hard, there wasn't enough board under my front foot, and I don't really get that sense from the 4.6 version. I'm 5'9", 160 pounds, so I feel like 4.6 is kind of perfect for me. But the 4.4 version also worked really well. It just felt like it could use a little bit more. But that's kind of where I am with sizing on this board. if you're considering getting the Craw, there's a couple of boards you can take a look at as well. The first is the Liptech Hydro Snapper, and this is the one that I hydro snapped in half. I haven't gotten a replacement yet. This board is usually more durable than a fiberglass board. It tends to work a little bit better than the Craw on really small, flat, slow waves, but it definitely won't handle as big of surf as the Craw. Another board you can take a look at is the Badfish Wave Farmer. This is going to be a little bit more user-friendly than the Corridor Craw, but it's definitely significantly slower. It is easier to spin, I would say. If you're getting into spins or you like spinning, I prefer to do those types of tricks on the Wave Farmer over the Craw. The last board I would consider would be the Peterson Tomahawk. This is a 4.9, 4.10 version. This is much more responsive, definitely more suited for more of an advanced expert river surfer, maybe someone who wants to really work on snappy turns or even spins or more advanced tricks. This might be a better board. It is also going to be a bit slower than the Craw, but it's still very fun to ride. The one thing I will say is, as far as short boards go, this board seems to work well at the most waves out of any of these other boards. So this works at RRP, this worked at Pueblo when the wave was really flat. This also worked in Salida when the wave was really flat. It worked in Salida when the wave was huge and steep. There's a lot of variety to the types of wave this board will ride, whereas some of these other ones either won't handle a big steep wave or won't handle a really flat wave. This one does its best at doing it all, as best as a surfboard can, right? At surfing, you know, everything from mushy flat to big and steep. All right, that's it for this review of the Corridor Craw. If you have this board, if you've surfed this board, let me know what you thought about it in the comments.